Welcome back, guys, and today we are going to be going over a set that I will be perfectly honest with you, I did not think I was going to be doing. I thought this was going to be a complete throwaway set. I could not make it work for the love of anything until today when I was actually streaming. I was talking about how terrible this set was, and I was told what a fool I was, and I was given some pointers by one of my followers, and it has really turned this set around, and I could not be more thankful for it, because this is now turning into one of my more favorite sets with the Demon Hunter. So the set we're talking about today is, of course, the Unhallowed Essence. This is going to be one of the sets you get after you get Hedrig's set for free if you did this for your set season, and it's an interesting one. So the idea here is that you're going to be using a lot of generators to keep your hatred and discipline up high. It's going to empower that, but then it's also going to do a thing where you're going to do a lot of extra damage with those, and you're going to take a lot of damage reduction, and you're going to have a lot of increased damage if you can keep guys at a distance. So you see we've got this buff that's constantly refreshing down here. Then of course you've got the Curious right there, which if you can keep your hatred up, you're going to take a pretty significant decrease in damage as well. So it was an interesting build. I was trying to figure out maybe if I should be trying to keep guys farther away from me, if there was something I could do where I'm constantly tumbling backwards and trying all kind of stuff, and I just could not make it work. Turns out what you really need to focus on is that very last line of this set. Your generators, Multi-Shot and Vengeance, deal 40% increased damage for every point of discipline you have. That is the most important part of this whole build right there, the amount of discipline you have. So when you start off, your discipline, not great. You do not end up with a lot of discipline right off the rip. As you see right now, though, I actually have 82 discipline. How did I get there? So a lot of items in this set will actually give you increases to your discipline, which is nice. You see plus 10 max discipline there. I've got some other stuff hidden away in here that's going to increase my, there you go, plus another 10 max discipline there, plus another 12 max discipline there. So we've added 32 discipline just right there. So that's basically where you sit. You start with 50 discipline, and you're going to be able to do roughly 2,000 extra damage, or 2,000%, I should say, extra damage right off the rip. But if you could start stacking this up, we've added a whole nother 32 to that. So that's really going to be adding that up. You're going to be looking at over 3,200% extra damage now. So we're going to start really seeing stuff like Vengeance take effect, and our multi-shot are really going to start working for us. I have added Strafe in here just because it's a fun one to build, but we'll go over the skills here in a second. Another one that's very important to have is going to be the Bastions of Will, Focus and Restraint. What these are going to do is when you hit with a resource generating attack, i.e. one of the main things you need to be attacking with, it's going to increase your damage by 50% for 5 seconds, which is very nice. On the flip side, you're going to be generating, whenever you hit with a resource spending attack, you're going to deal an extra 50% damage for 5 seconds as well. So you see my left and right click are going to be two of those things that are going to be doing that extra 3,200% as long as I don't spend any discipline, which I basically have no reason to. And then this will actually restore our discipline if we have anything that costs it. So if we have to use our wolf companion, things like that, we can go ahead and pop that. But I don't think we actually have anything that uses discipline down there. And then we've got here, rapid fire no longer has a channeling cost. Not really important, not really best in slot either. It's just something to kind of fill the gap. And then right here, this is one of the big ones. Your hatred generators reduce your damage taken by 33%. So as long as you're sitting there throwing out multi-shots, you're going to see this Raps of Clarity popping up pretty regularly. That's a pretty nice buff to have. And then you've got this one right here, which is why I'm using the grenades. They have a chance to bounce 4 times, dealing an additional 50% on each bounce. This bonus is increased to 800% on the final bounce. So I use that one a lot, and I throw it out. So as you see, I have not optimized this at all. If you want to see how I do some optimization stuff, I'm going to put a link right up here in the corner for you to click on. It's my optimizing build, and I will be optimizing this in the future so that it works a little bit better. But in the meantime, without any optimization, without any best in slot gear other than the set or other than the two sets, I should say, we're running Greater Rift 50s with ease, which is fantastic. So let's go over what we have at the cube real quick, and then I'll talk about our skills. What we've got right here is Dawn, which is reducing the cooldown of Vengeance by 65%. My friend's having a rough time there. We have the Akuya Cuirass, which is 90% primary resource. As long as we're above that, all damage taken is reduced by 50%, which is very nice. Then we have Convention of Elements, gain 200% increased damage to a single element. So the Convention of Elements, pretty standard stuff for most builds. What this is going to mean, whenever fire comes up, we're going to be throwing multi-shot. Whenever ice comes up, we're going to be throwing grenades. That way we can keep our two stacks running with the 50% increases. We're going to keep our damage reduction up, and we're going to be doing bonus damage whenever those pop up. And then if we feel like it, we could throw out one of these for lightning, different stuff like that. So we've got a lot of abilities there. So what we're looking at here, just to go over primary, I'm using cold grenades because that's going to slow guys down. That's also going to do something very nice for us. I am running the set ring with Bane of the Trapped in it, which is going to increase damage against enemies on the effects of control impairing effects, which, if you look at it, chilled will count as a control impairing effect. So that will also give us a speed boost, and that will give us 30% extra damage on those guys. I'm also running Bane of the Stricken here, which each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes from your attacks by 1%. That's not a whole lot, but then you gain 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. That's nice. Up here I'm running Bane of the Powerful, which I have 20% increased damage for 81 seconds after killing an elite pack, because I have leveled this one up quite a bit. And then we gain 15% increased damage versus elites, and we take 15% reduced damage. Very nice stuff there. Over here we've got archery, so we're doing multi-shot with the arsenal, which is just a big cone of arrows that will fire out in front of us, and it's going to be throwing rockets. All this rocket stuff that I do with the strafe, with the multi-shot, that's going to come in right here, ballistics. That's going to double the damage of our rockets. You're going to be increasing them by 100%, and in addition, you have a 20% chance to fire a homing rocket for 150% weapon damage when you attack. So just my basic attacks are going to be throwing that out. That gets real nasty when you're running this Dark Heart with Vengeance. We're also going to use Awareness. That's going to be keeping us alive in case we step out of place and somebody pops us. That's going to get us out of that spot. We've got Cold the Weak, increasing damage against slowed or chilled enemies. Once again, we're going to be using cold grenades constantly. They're always going to be chilled. We're always going to be doing more damage. And then you've got Thrill of the Hunt right here. Enemies hit by your hatred spinders are slowed by 80% for 2 seconds. That's going to be another thing that is going to trigger stuff like this. This slowed or chilled is going to trigger that, and then our control impairing, that Bane of the Trapped, that's really going to kick in with that as well. Down here, like I said, I've got Dark Heart turn into the physical embodiment of Vengeance. And we're just going to be doing a ton of damage and taking half damage the whole time we're in that. Strafe, I'm using Rocket Storm, so I'm going to shoot at random enemies for 675% weapon damage while moving at 75% of my normal speed, but I can move through enemies, which is one of the key factors of why I brought Strafe, because that allows me, if a pack surrounds me, I can just slide out of it, keep moving, looking for more elites. That's going to be pretty huge there. I do have my Wolf Companion here. The reason I do that is because I can activate my Wolf Companion, granting me and my allies 15% increased damage. That's very nice. And in the base, he just does attacks enemies in front of him for 150% of your weapon damage as physical. So whenever that physical rolls around, he's going to get a little buff. Then over here, one of the biggest things that we have is going to be preparation. It's going to, what it does is it passively increases what am I looking at? Passively increases our discipline by a flat 20%, or 20 points, I should say, which is huge. So you're looking at over 50 that I've pumped into this, over 52 discipline that I've added to this build. So it takes a lot of discipline to make this build work, no pun intended there. But when you do make this work, it really is something to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive in here. We're going to hit this Greater Rift level 50 just like we did with the Marauders yesterday. I'm going to show you some stuff as to how the build will actually be played, and we're going to go into it, and I'll accelerate it after that. So basically what we're looking at right here, I'm going to come in, I'm going to pop that. I'm actually going to be spinning just lasers and bullets everywhere, and I'm just going to keep raining. I'm going to go ahead and pop my Wolf Companion, and we're just going to throw damage every which way. You see our health goes down a little bit from time to time, but most of the time we are okay. We'll stay out of the cold, and we're going to just nuke all of our enemies down very quickly, very easily, moving on just like that. So that's all it really is you're just going to throw a grenade, you're going to throw the multi-shot. It's just a ton of damage constantly from all angles. You see all of those buffs down on my bar. And then all you can do after that is just spin around, go get in that ring. That'll do extra damage. Stand in that ring of power that we have on our Templar. And it's just going to be a ton of damage pretty much constantly. I did not think this set was capable of it. Whenever you need a little extra boost, go ahead and pop that Vengeance. Because of our crossbow, that Vengeance is on a reduced cooldown. That's one of the... I think that's probably one of the requirements of this build. Because you're able to do so much damage by having those rockets constantly flying out. And able to take 50% less damage. Because you are kind of squishy as a Demon Hunter. I do have 800,000 health at this point. But I've actually optimized 4 health for a lot of my other stuff. So that's kind of why you see that the way it is. You saw the grenade bouncing across that guy's head. That's what we're talking about. But you guys see how the builds run. I'm going to go ahead and cut my voice off here. Let some music come in so that we can see this build get all the way through this rift. And I can actually focus on getting through this without screwing it up too badly. Okay, guys, as you could see, that actually went pretty well. It was not my record-breaking time because as soon as I finished joking about so I don't screw this up, I immediately stopped talking and promptly screwed it up. So it can be caught out. There is an option for that. Excuse me. And some of the things can get a little rough. But other than that, the build did go really well. I was able to just blow right through it. You saw we had over 5 minutes left. That was the only time I ended up dying. The strafe does work out really well. This was actually my first time giving it a go, and it's a great escape. It's better to escape with it than to engage with it, as I quickly learned. It does burn your hatred fairly quickly, but if you use it, if you run past a bunch of enemies, you get them into a bunch, then you strafe back out of them, and then you can multi-shot down on top of the group of enemies. You're able to cut down those large groups of enemies pretty quickly. So that worked out really well. You got to make sure you're remembering to activate your wolf whenever he comes off cooldown. Gives you that 15% increased damage, and make sure that you're popping that vengeance whenever it's coming off a cooldown. Or particularly when you're running into an elite pack. That's one of the biggest times to do it. The cooldown says it's 90 seconds, and it only lasts for 20 seconds. I think that's changed because of all the CDR. So I think it does seem to come up usually about the time it runs out. You're not really having to worry about it being down for too terribly long. But that's a great set. I really do enjoy it. If you guys liked it, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I keep pumping these builds out. I try to do about 3 builds per character, and I'm going to try and get through all the characters before the season ends. I actually just got a Crusader up to level 70, so you'll see some Crusader stuff probably next week. You'll see the top tier of this set starting sometime next week, and we'll probably do the Natalias for this guy, so he'll probably get 4 sets. He's got some interesting. So, as always, like I said, if you guys like what you see, go ahead and like. If you have any questions, leave them down there in the comments. I always respond to my comments. So if you have anything you want to see in particular, or if I left something out and you want to go ahead and correct me, let me know. I'm always open to feedback. So I really appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you for your support, and I will see you guys next time.